The phone rang, an unfamiliar number at first glance, but then my stomach dropped. It was a long distance area code I hadn't seen in 6 years, not since the last time my mother, Andrea, had decided I wasn't worth the air I breathed. My name is Vivian West, and at 38 years old, I'd built a life from the ground up, brick by painful brick, after she'd effectively disowned me. Now, staring at the screen, I felt a familiar, cold dread. Hello? I answered, my voice steady, betraying none of the internal turmoil. Vivian? Is that really you? Her voice, Andrea's voice, was like a perfectly manicured nail dragging down a chalkboard. Syrupy sweet, but with an edge that promised a scratch. It's your mother, darling. I thought I'd lost your number. Lost my number? More like erased it from her mind, along with any memory of me that didn't fit her perfect narrative. My 8-year-old daughter, Iris, was coloring quietly at the kitchen table, humming a made up tune. She was the reason I'd found my strength, the anchor in a world that had tried to drown me. It's me, Mom, I said, my tone neutral. To what do I owe the pleasure? A brittle laugh. Always so direct, Vivian. Can't a mother call her daughter, especially with the holidays coming up? I was thinking of hosting Christmas dinner this year, a proper family gathering. It's been far too long. A proper family gathering. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken conditions. My mind raced. 6 years of silence, and now a sudden invitation to Christmas? This wasn't an olive branch. It was a trap, baited with the illusion of normalcy. That's unexpected, I said, my gaze drifting to Iris, her brow furrowed in concentration as she colored a purple dinosaur. She was my everything, my chosen family. Well, you know how much I value family, Vivian. The West family tree is a proud one, deep roots, strong branches. The emphasis on West family tree was unmistakable. It was Andrea's coded language, a reminder that I was a branch that had dared to grow differently, and Iris, my beautiful, brilliant Iris, wasn't a part of her precious lineage. My fingers hovered over the record button on my phone. I'd learned a long time ago that with Andrea, you needed receipts. I took a slow, deep breath, my heart thumping a quiet rhythm against my ribs. Click. The tiny, almost imperceptible sound of the recording starting was a secret weapon now in my hand. So, you'd be welcome, of course, Andrea continued, her voice gaining a patronizing lilt. It's been too long. But about Iris? Here it came. I braced myself. You know, darling, Christmas is a time for family. Real family, blood relatives. And while I admire your generosity, taking her in and all, she paused, letting the implication hang. She's not really family, is she? Not in the way that matters. It would just be confusing for everyone, and frankly, a little out of place for our traditional gathering. My blood ran cold, but my voice remained steady, almost eerily calm. You're saying Iris isn't welcome at your Christmas dinner, Mom? Oh, Vivian, don't be dramatic. It's not about welcome, it's about fitting in. Our family is very particular. And well, she's a charity case, isn't she? A lovely one, I'm sure, but not one of us. We wouldn't want her to feel uncomfortable or for anyone to ask awkward questions. The veiled racism and classism were thick in her tone, cloaked in faux concern. Andrea, at 61, still believed in a rigid social hierarchy, and Iris, adopted from a different background, didn't fit into her carefully constructed world. A wave of devastation washed over me, quickly followed by a cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Iris, the 8-year-old girl who was more family to me than Andrea could ever comprehend. My quiet, beloved daughter who deserved nothing but love and acceptance. I see, I said, my voice flat. So, Christmas with the family, but only the real family. Exactly. You understand. I knew you would. It's just how things are, Vivian. We have to maintain standards, don't we? I closed my eyes for a second, picturing Iris's innocent face, her bright, curious eyes. My hand tightened around the phone. This time, I wasn't just walking away. This time, I was bringing the whole damn house down. Thanks, Mom, I said, my voice barely a whisper, but laced with a chilling undertone that I knew she wouldn't pick up on. I'll think about it. I hung up before she could respond, the silence in the kitchen suddenly deafening. Iris looked up, her purple dinosaur finished. Mommy, are you okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little tired. But I wasn't fine. I was seething. I walked over to the counter, my fingers already navigating the phone's menu. I found the recording, a short, sharp burst of Andrea's voice, clear as a bell. I listened to it once, the words twisting in my gut. Then, with a grim determination, I forwarded the audio file to my private email account. Subject line: Insurance. I stared at the email confirmation, the word insurance glowing back at me from the subject line. It felt cold, clinical, but also incredibly satisfying. The audio file, a digital echo of Andrea's cruelty, was safely tucked away. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it yet, but the mere act of preserving it, of refusing to let her words vanish into the ether, felt like a small victory. My best friend Ren called a few minutes later. She's been my rock since my divorce. Since before that, even, through the crushing disappointment of infertility and the long, hopeful journey to adopt Iris. Ren knows my family history better than anyone, probably better than I do sometimes, because she's seen it from the outside. Hey, you okay? She asked, her voice instantly picking up on the tremor I hadn't realized was still in mine. Andrea called, I blurted out, the words tumbling over each other. After 6 years. Invited me to Christmas. A beat of silence, then, oh God, Vivian, what did she want? Ren knew Andrea's invitations always came with strings, usually barbed wire. She said Iris wasn't welcome, I choked out, the calm I'd maintained on the phone finally cracking. Not real family, a charity case, said it would be confusing for everyone at her traditional gathering. Ren swore, a low guttural sound. That woman, I swear to God, Vivian, she's a monster. Still obsessed with her stupid bloodlines and branches of the family tree nonsense? After everything she put you through? Her words opened the floodgates. I paced my small living room, Iris still absorbed in her coloring book, oblivious to the storm brewing around her. It's always been about image with her, Ren. Always. I was never good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not obedient enough. She always had her golden child, Tabitha, my younger sister, who could do no wrong. I was the scapegoat, the one who ruined her perfect picture. I remembered the constant criticism, the way she'd pick apart my clothes, my grades, my friends, the way she'd dismiss my feelings, tell me I was too sensitive. The worst was when I was a teenager, a mistake that cost me dearly. I'd gotten pregnant at 17, a terrifying, confusing time. Andrea had been furious, not about my well being, but about the scandal slug. She'd forced me to give the baby up for adoption, telling me it was for the best, for the family's reputation. I never saw that child again. The trauma of that, combined with the later pain of my infertility struggles after my marriage ended, had nearly broken me. But then there was Iris. And now, Iris, I continued, my voice hardening, my beautiful, smart, kind daughter, the one who healed me, the one who is my real family. And Andrea just dismisses her like she's a stray dog. She doesn't deserve you, Vivian, Wren said, her voice firm. Or Iris. Honestly, I'm surprised you even answered the phone. I recorded it, I confessed, a flicker of something cold and sharp igniting inside me. Every word, sent it to my email. A pause, then Wren's laugh, a sound of pure, unadulterated delight. Oh, Vivian, you didn't. I did, I confirmed, a grim smile touching my lips. And I'm not just going to let it sit there. This time, I'm not walking away in silence. She wants to talk about family trees and real family. Fine, let's talk about it. Let's talk about all of it. The thought of exposing Andrea, of shattering her carefully constructed facade, sent a jolt through me. It wasn't about violence or even direct confrontation. It was about truth. a booming, silence breaking exposure. For years, I'd carried the weight of her abuse, the feeling that I was somehow less, somehow broken. But Iris had changed everything. She'd shown me what real love was, what real family felt like, and I would protect that fiercely. I was still talking to Ren, my voice low, when Iris patted over to me, her small hand tugging at my shirt. Mommy? She whispered, her brow furrowed. Why are you sad? Is Grandma still mean? My heart clenched. Iris, with her uncanny ability to read my emotions, had picked up on my distress. I knelt down, pulling her into a tight hug, inhaling the scent of crayons and childhood. Her question, so innocent yet so profound, solidified my resolve. Andrea's cruelty wouldn't touch Iris. Not now, not ever. I pulled back, looking into her earnest brown eyes. No, sweetie, I said, my voice firm, a new determination setting in. Grandma isn't going to be mean to us anymore. Not if I can help it. I held her close for another moment, then pulled away, a plan forming in my mind. Hey, let's take a photo tomorrow, okay? A really nice one. Just us. The next morning, a Saturday, the air felt charged with a quiet intensity. Iris, excited about our photo, chose her favorite sparkly unicorn shirt. I picked a simple, dark top. We took a dozen selfies, laughing as Iris made silly faces, her joy infectious. I picked the one where we were both smiling genuinely, our heads together, a clear statement of our bond. I didn't post it yet, not until the first bomb dropped. I spent the rest of the morning editing the audio file, not to change anything, but to trim the dead air, to make Andrea's words hit harder, faster. The veiled racism, the classism, the outright dismissal of Iris. It was all there, stark and undeniable. I uploaded the unedited audio file to a secure cloud storage service, making sure it was accessible via a link. My finger hovered over the send button for our extended family group chat. This chat, usually a wasteland of forwarded memes and polite holiday greetings, was about to become ground zero. My stomach churned, but my resolve was iron. This wasn't just for me. It was for every time Andrea had made me feel small. Every time she'd prioritized appearance over affection. Every time she'd swept something painful under the rug. I typed nothing in the message box, just pasted the link. Click. Sent. The silence that followed was deafening. My phone, usually buzzing with notifications, was eerily still. I imagined the faces on the other end. My Aunt Maria, my Uncle Angelo, my cousins Mia and Quentin, my sister Tabitha. They were all in there, part of the family Andrea so desperately tried to control. They were all about to hear the truth. Minutes crawled by. 5 minutes, at 10, 15. My heart hammered against my ribs. Had they heard it? Were they just stunned? Then the first notification, a single message in the group chat. Angelo Sanders has left the conversation. My Uncle Angelo. 63 years old, outspoken, but usually a staunch defender of Andrea's family values. His departure was a shock. It meant he'd heard it, and he couldn't stomach it. A small, grim smile touched my lips. Good. Almost immediately, my phone vibrated with a private message. It was from Mia Clark, my 35-year-old cousin, an influencer who usually posted about fashion and healthy living. Mia Clark. Is that real? Oh my god. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Vivian West. Every word. Another notification. My phone was ringing. It was Maria, my Aunt Maria Sanders, Andrea's sister, 58 years old. Maria had always been the kinder, more empathetic aunt, but she'd also been largely silent about Andrea's behavior over the years, a quiet observer. I answered, my voice still a little shaky. Maria? Vivian, she breathed, her voice thick with emotion. I just I just heard it. Oh my god. I knew she was bad, but to say that about Iris, about family? She trailed off, a sob catching in her throat. I've waited years for someone to do this, for someone to finally call her out. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I've waited years for someone to do this. It wasn't just my pain, it was a shared burden, a collective silence that Andrea had enforced for decades. My pain, my feelings of being the family outcast, weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern, a systemic issue within the family, all orchestrated by Andrea. It was a revelation, a shift in perspective that made my resolve even stronger. This wasn't just revenge, it was a reckoning. It's time, Maria, I said, my voice steadying. It's past time. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'm not stopping. Not now. As we spoke, more notifications popped up. My sister, Tabitha West, 33, Andrea's golden child, had read the message. She was silent. No reaction, no private message, nothing, just silence. That was typical. Tabitha, always avoiding confrontation, always staying in Andrea's good graces. But I wondered what she was really thinking. Then a new text came into the group chat. Not from me, not from Maria, from Annalise West, my grandmother, 84 years old, the matriarch, Andrea's mother. Annalise West. If she's not welcome, no one is. Christmas is canceled. My jaw dropped. Grandmother Annalise. The woman who had always seemed to defer to Andrea, who had always upheld the family's rigid traditions, she had just in one short sentence defied her own daughter. She had chosen Iris. She had chosen me. The shockwaves were just beginning. The silence in the group chat after my grandmother Annalise's message was even heavier than before. It wasn't just shock, it was the sound of a carefully constructed facade crumbling. Andrea's own mother had just publicly rebuked her. Then my phone started to blow up. Not the group chat, but my personal line. Missed call after missed call, a relentless assault, 12 of them, all from Andrea. I watched the screen, letting it ring, a perverse sense of satisfaction bubbling up inside me. She was finally feeling the heat. Finally, the calls stopped, replaced by a new notification. A voice memo. I took a deep breath, preparing myself, and pressed play. Vivian? Andrea's voice, usually so controlled, was laced with a furious tremor. What in God's name do you think you're doing? Tearing this family apart? Canceling Christmas? Are you trying to destroy everything I've built? This is a disgrace. A complete and utter disgrace. You've always been so dramatic, so selfish. This is just like you, Vivian. Always making a scene, always ruining things. You need to delete that thing you sent immediately before you do any more irreparable damage. Her words were a familiar refrain, a broken record of blame and manipulation that had played throughout my entire life. Tearing the family apart. That was her favorite line whenever I dared to assert myself, whenever I didn't conform to her rigid expectations. I remembered being a kid, maybe 10 or 11, and wanting to wear jeans to a family dinner instead of the frilly dress she'd picked out. The meltdown. The accusations of disrespect, of trying to embarrass her. It was always about her image, her perception of what the family should be, never about who we actually were. Then, the memory of my teenage pregnancy, a raw wound that had never truly healed. I was 17, scared, and alone. Andrea's first concern wasn't my well being, but the scandal. What will people say? She'd shrieked, her face contorted with fury. This will ruin us! She'd arranged the adoption swiftly, efficiently, as if disposing of an inconvenient package. There was no comfort, no understanding, just the cold, hard reality of her shame. Years later, when my marriage to David fell apart, and the doctors confirmed what I already suspected, that infertility was a cruel reality for me, Andrea's reaction was equally devoid of empathy. Well, at least you don't have to worry about a messy divorce with children involved, she'd said, as if my inability to conceive was a minor inconvenience, not a profound grief. She'd minimized my pain just as she'd minimized everything that didn't fit her perfect narrative. My marriage breakdown wasn't a tragedy. It was just another failure on my part, another deviation from her ideal. I closed the voice memo. Her words had no power over me anymore, not like they used to. Iris had given me a new kind of strength. a clarity that cut through Andrea's manipulative fog. Just then, my phone buzzed again. It was Mia. Mia Clark. Hey, I just wanted to show you something. Andrea started a private chat with some of the older cousins and aunts. She's been going off about you and Iris. Attached were screenshots. My eyes scanned the messages, a cold fury building. Andrea West. Vivian is just jealous, always has been. And that child, honestly, a charity case. I don't know why she insists on parading her around like she's a real West. It's an embarrassment. Andrea West. Annalise is just old and confused. She doesn't know what she's saying. I'll talk sense into her. Andrea West. We need to present a united front. This is a family matter, not for public consumption. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She was trying to control the narrative, to spin her cruelty as concern, her prejudice as tradition. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. I opened Instagram. I found the photo Iris and I had taken that morning. Our genuine smiles, our matching pajamas. It was simple, pure, and spoke volumes without a single word of anger. I typed out the caption carefully, deliberately. Vivian West, home, where family is chosen, not just given, where love is unconditional, not conditional on blood or status, where every heart is welcome, especially the smallest, wisest ones. Chosen, family, but love wins, my Iris. I hit post. It felt like reclaiming power, not with anger, but with candor, with love. It was a direct counter to everything Andrea stood for. A few minutes later, a DM popped up. Not from Mia, not from Maria, from Quentin Mitchell, my older cousin, 39, unmarried, and notoriously strict, always siding with Andrea on matters of tradition. Quentin Mitchell, there's something you don't know about Tabitha. My breath hitched. Tabitha, my sister, Andrea's golden child. What could Quentin possibly know about her that I didn't? A new mystery, a new piece of the puzzle, just as I thought I had all the pieces. Quentin's DM hung in the air, a cryptic invitation to a secret I never knew existed. There's something you don't know about Tabitha. My sister, Tabitha, 33, Andrea's perfect daughter, the one who always seemed to glide through life untouched by our mother's sharp edges. The one who remained silent in the group chat even after the recording dropped. I typed back immediately. Vivian West. What are you talking about, Quentin? His reply came quickly. Quentin Mitchell. Call me. Can't text this. I hesitated. Quentin, 39, was usually so buttoned up, so loyal to Andrea's version of family order. For him to reach out like this, breaking rank, meant whatever he had to say was significant. I excused myself from Iris, who was now engrossed in a cartoon, and stepped into the hallway, my heart pounding. Quentin? I said, answering the call. Vivienne, he began, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. Look, I know where I stand with Andrea, and I don't like drama, but what she said about Iris and then Annalise canceling Christmas, it's a mess. And it made me think. There's something Andrea's kept buried for years, and it involves Tabitha. He paused, and I held my breath. When Tabitha was 17, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper, she got pregnant. Andrea covered it up, sent her away for a semester, told everyone she was on an exchange program, but she had the baby, gave it up for adoption. The words hit me like a physical blow. Tabitha, my sister, pregnant at 17, a child given up for adoption, the same age I was when I got pregnant, the same outcome. But with one crucial difference, I was cast out, shamed, made to feel like a pariah. Tabitha was protected, her secret meticulously guarded, her reputation preserved. Are you serious? I managed, my voice thin with disbelief and a rising tide of fury. Tabitha? Andrea covered it up? Yes. My mother, your Aunt Carol, was the only one who knew, and she only told me years later, after Andrea had already put you through the ringer about your own situation. Carol said Andrea made her swear to secrecy. She didn't want to tarnish Tabitha's future or bring shame to the family name. It was all about appearances, Vivian. Always. The hypocrisy was so blatant, so sickening it made my head spin. I remembered Andrea's histrionics, her accusations, her cold dismissal of my pain, all while she was actively concealing the exact same situation for her golden child. My anger, which I thought had peaked, surged with renewed intensity. Thank you, Quentin, I said, my voice tight. I I need to process this. I hung up, my mind reeling. I immediately messaged Mia. Vivian West. Hey, quick question. Do you remember Tabitha being away for a semester when she was 17? Like an exchange program or something? Mia's reply came instantly. Mia Clark. OMG. Yes. I always thought it was weird. She was gone for like 4 or 5 months and then came back totally different, super quiet. Andrea always changed the subject if anyone asked. Why? What's up? I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. Vivian West, Quentin just told me. She had a baby, gave it up for adoption. Andrea covered it up. Mia's next message was a string of expletives, followed by Mia Clark. No, way, that manipulative witch. So she shamed you for it but protected Tabitha? This is insane, Vivian. Absolutely insane. My resolve, already sharpened, now felt like a razor's edge. This wasn't just about me and Iris anymore. This was about Andrea's entire lifetime of lies, her selective morality, her twisted sense of family honor. She had actively caused pain, then covered it up, all to maintain her precious image. The thought of revenge, once a simmering idea, now felt like a righteous crusade. I had the recording. I had Mia's screenshots of Andrea's latest vitriol, and now I had this explosive secret about Tabitha. The truth was a weapon, and I was ready to wield it. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, playing with Iris, but my mind was elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle of my family's dysfunction. The sheer audacity of Andrea's hypocrisy was almost comical, if it wasn't so deeply painful. Later that evening, as I was tucking Iris into bed, my phone buzzed with a notification from the family group chat. It was a message from my Aunt Maria. Maria Sanders. Has anyone heard from Andrea? She's not answering her phone. My sister Carol said she heard Andrea is planning something, a new Christmas gathering. Then another message from a distant cousin I barely knew. Cousin Beth. Yeah, I got a weird text from her. Something about a private, intimate Christmas retreat at a luxury Airbnb. Sounds like she's trying to salvage her image with a select few. My blood ran cold. A new invite only Christmas, a last ditch effort to salvage her image, to pretend her perfect family hadn't just imploded. She was trying to rewrite the narrative, to exclude those who wouldn't conform, to create a new, controlled version of family. But I had a different plan, and this time her carefully constructed world was going to shatter. Andrea's plan for a new, invite only Christmas at a luxury Airbnb retreat solidified my resolve. She wasn't just trying to ignore the fallout, she was actively trying to create an alternate reality, a curated version of her perfect family, excluding anyone who dared to challenge her. It was a desperate attempt to salvage her image, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I spent the next day, a Sunday, meticulously crafting my second bomb. This wasn't going to be just an audio file. It was going to be a narrative, a carefully composed post designed to expose the full extent of Andrea's hypocrisy and the damage she'd inflicted. I wanted it to resonate, not just within our immediate family, but with anyone who had ever felt the sting of conditional love or the weight of family secrets. I started with the title, For the Women They Tried to Break. It felt right. It wasn't just about me. It was about Tabitha, about my grandmother Annalise, about anyone Andrea had silenced. I began writing, detailing the Christmas invitation call, Andrea's cruel words about Iris being not real family, and a charity case. I included the fact that I'd recorded it and that my grandmother had responded by canceling Christmas. This established the current conflict. Then I moved to the deeper wounds. I wrote about Andrea's obsession with appearances, how she prioritized image over genuine connection. I recounted my own teenage pregnancy, the shame she'd heaped upon me, the forced adoption, and her subsequent dismissal of my infertility struggles. I didn't name names for the adoption, just focused on the emotional impact and named Andrea's reaction. Next, I introduced the bombshell about Tabitha. I explained how Andrea had covered up Tabitha's own teenage pregnancy at 17, sending her away to secretly give up a child for adoption, all to protect her golden child's reputation. I highlighted the stark contrast, my public shaming versus Tabitha's secret protection, the blatant hypocrisy that had festered for decades. I knew I needed more than just my word. I reached out to Maria and Mia. I'm writing a post, I explained to Maria on the phone, about everything. Andrea's hypocrisy, the secrets. I want to include anonymous testimony from others who've been hurt by her. Would you be willing to share anything? Maria didn't hesitate. Yes, Vivian, anything. She always made me feel like I wasn't good enough either, like my life choices weren't up to her standards. She'd constantly criticize my parenting, my career choices, always subtle, but always there, undermining. I wrote down her words, careful to keep them anonymous, focusing on the feeling of being undermined and judged. Mia, already on board, sent me a long text. She always made me feel like I was too loud, too ambitious, like a woman should be quiet and pretty, not successful and opinionated. She'd make passive aggressive comments about my social media, saying it was unladylike or too much. And she'd always compare me to Tabitha, saying I should be more like her. I incorporated Mia's experiences again anonymously, focusing on the emotional impact and the pattern of control. I wove these anonymous testimonies into the post, showing that Andrea's behavior wasn't just directed at me, but was a pervasive pattern of emotional abuse and control that affected multiple women in the family. It wasn't just my story, it was our story. I proofread it countless times, ensuring every word was impactful, every detail accurate, and every accusation backed by the truth. It wasn't about being petty, it was about exposing the truth, about breaking the cycle of silence and denial that had plagued our family for generations. Finally, late on Sunday night, I was ready. I uploaded the post to a public blogging platform, then shared the link to the extended family group chat. I didn't add any personal comment, just the link. The title alone was enough. For the women they tried to break. The immediate aftermath was a flurry of notifications. My phone buzzed constantly as people read it. I saw new names pop up in the group chat, cousins I hadn't heard from in years, reacting with shocked emojis and private messages to each other. The post wasn't just going viral within our family circle, it was spreading beyond as family members shared it with their friends and friends of friends. The comments section of the blog post started to fill up, not just with family, but with strangers sharing their own stories of family trauma. I watched it unfold, a strange mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through me. I was exposing myself, my deepest wounds, to the world, but I was also exposing Andrea, her carefully constructed facade, to the light. In that moment, I saw myself not just as a survivor, but as a protector. Not just for Iris, but for all the younger generations in our family, for anyone carrying the silent burden of family trauma. My revenge had transformed into a reckoning, a catalyst for change. The silence was shattered, and the truth, once buried, was now echoing loudly. My phone vibrated again. A new message from Tabitha, my sister, the golden child, who had been silent for days. Tabitha West. You were right. I hate her too. My breath caught in my throat. Tabitha. Finally. The cracks were showing, not just in Andrea's world, but in Tabitha's carefully maintained facade of loyalty. This was bigger than I ever imagined. Tabitha's message, you were right, I hate her too, resonated deep within me. It wasn't just a message, it was a crack in the foundation of Andrea's control, a sign that the truth, once unleashed, had the power to free even those who seemed most bound. It was a small, quiet victory, but a profound one. The days leading up to Christmas were a blur of notifications, messages, and calls. The blog post had indeed gone viral within the family and beyond. Strangers were commenting, sharing their own stories of narcissistic parents and hidden family secrets. My phone was a constant hum. Maria called daily, offering support and sharing updates on the family gossip. Mia was reposting the blog link on her own social media, adding her voice to the chorus. Even Quentin, surprisingly, had liked my Instagram post. Andrea, however, had gone completely silent. No more calls, no more angry voice memos, just a chilling, ominous quiet. Christmas morning dawned cold and bright, with a fresh blanket of snow covering the city. For the first time in years, there was no knot of dread in my stomach about the holidays, no pressure to perform, no fear of judgment, just peace. Iris, 8 years old, woke up with a squeal of delight at the snow. We made hot cocoa, the rich smell filling our cozy apartment. Instead of a traditional tree, we spent the morning building a paper Christmas tree, cutting out colorful ornaments and gluing them on. It was imperfect, a little lopsided, but it was ours. We took joyful photos, Iris beaming, her hands covered in glitter glue. This was our Christmas. Chosen. Free. Just as we were admiring our paper masterpiece, my phone rang. The familiar, dreaded number. Andrea? I looked at Iris, who was reaching for another paper star. Mommy, who is it? She asked, her eyes wide. A mischievous idea sparked in my mind. This was it. The final confrontation, but not on Andrea's terms. It's Grandma Andrea, I said, handing the phone to Iris. Do you want to say hello? Iris's eyes widened further, a mixture of curiosity and slight apprehension. She'd only ever heard me talk about Andrea, never actually spoken to her. Really? Yes, really, I confirmed, a small, triumphant smile playing on my lips. Just tell her what Mommy said, okay? Iris nodded, taking the phone. Hello? She said, her voice small but clear. A pause. I could only imagine Andrea's reaction on the other end, hearing Iris's voice. Oh, my mommy said, no thank you. Another pause. Yes. My mommy said no thank you. Iris handed the phone back to me, her face a mixture of confusion and pride. She sounds funny, Mommy. I took the phone, my heart surprisingly calm. The fear was gone, replaced by a quiet strength. Andrea? I said, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. You heard Iris. We're good. We're having our own Christmas. Vivian, how dare you putting that child on the phone? This is outrageous. You've ruined everything. You've destroyed the family. Her voice was shrill, breaking, filled with a raw, unadulterated fury that bordered on despair. The carefully constructed facade was gone, replaced by a desperate, flailing woman. No, Andrea, I said, my voice quiet but firm. You destroyed the family years ago. I'm just picking up the pieces and building something real, something honest, something you could never understand. You're a monster, a vindictive, ungrateful monster. You'll be alone, Vivian. You'll see. No one will want you. She was breaking down, her voice dissolving into ragged sobs. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no triumph. Just a profound sense of detachment. The words, once so potent, were now just noise. She had no power over me anymore. Goodbye, Andrea, I said, and calmly pressed the end call button. The silence that followed was not empty, but full of peace, of freedom. Iris was humming again, decorating our paper tree. Karma had arrived not with a shout, but with a quiet, decisive click of a button. Just as I was about to join Iris, there was a knock on the door. I frowned. We weren't expecting anyone. I opened it, and my jaw dropped. Standing there, bundled in winter coats, were Mia, Maria, and Tabitha. Mia, 35, with a bright, teary smile. Maria, 58, holding a pie, her eyes red rimmed but shining. And Tabitha, 33, her face pale but resolute, clutching a small wrapped gift. Merry Christmas, Vivian, Maria whispered, her voice thick with emotion. We left. We couldn't stay there. Not anymore. Mia nodded, tears streaming down her face. We wanted to be here, with you, with Iris. Tabitha, my sister, met my gaze. Her eyes, usually guarded, held a flicker of something raw and vulnerable. I couldn't, she said, her voice barely audible. I just couldn't. Not after everything. Iris, hearing voices, peeked around the corner. Her eyes widened at the sight of the unexpected guests. Mia pulled out her phone. Let's take a picture, she said, her voice cracking with emotion. A real family picture. We gathered together an imperfect, unconventional group. Maria, Mia, Tabitha, me, and Iris nestled safely in my arms. We smiled, a collective sigh of relief, of freedom. The camera flashed. We survived, I whispered, looking at the photo, the image of our imperfect but free family. We finally survived. The days after Christmas blurred into a quiet, profound peace. Our small apartment, usually just home to Iris and me, felt fuller, warmer. Maria, Mia, and Tabitha had stayed for the rest of Christmas Day, sharing stories and laughter, a strange mix of relief and lingering tension hanging in the air. It was a new kind of family gathering, one built on honesty rather than obligation. Andrea, true to form, went completely silent. No more calls, no more angry messages. The family grapevine, however, was buzzing. Rumors swirled that she had packed a few bags and relocated for the new year, perhaps to a distant relative's vacation home, seeking refuge from the fallout. It was her typical move. When things got too hot, she'd disappear, letting the dust settle before attempting to reassert control. But this time, the dust wasn't settling. It was still swirling, revealing decades of buried secrets. My grandmother, Annalise, called me the day after Christmas. Her voice, usually so proper, was filled with a quiet strength. Vivian, she said, I'm proud of you, and of Iris. You did the right thing. It was long overdue. She didn't elaborate, but her support meant the world. Quentin also sent a short, almost formal text saying he hoped I found peace. No apology, but a clear shift from his usual loyalty to Andrea. Angelo remained out of the group chat, a silent testament to the recording's impact. A few days into the new year, a thick, cream colored envelope arrived in the mail. My name was handwritten on the front in a familiar, elegant script. It was from Tabitha. I opened it slowly, my heart thumping. The letter was long, several pages, written in her neat, precise handwriting. She started by apologizing, truly apologizing, for her silence, for her complicity, for letting Andrea's narrative dictate her life and our relationship. She wrote about the shame Andrea had instilled in her, the fear of losing her mother's approval, and how she'd always tried to be the perfect daughter, even at her own expense. Then she confessed the rest of her story. You were right about everything, Vivian, she wrote. About my pregnancy. It was a girl. I named her Hope. Andrea arranged everything, made sure no one knew. It was like it never happened, but it did. And it haunted me every single day. My eyes scanned the next paragraph, and a gasp escaped me. Last year, she found me on Facebook. My daughter, Hope, she's 18 now. She's wonderful, Vivian, and she's looking for answers. I've been meeting with her secretly, trying to navigate this. Andrea would lose her mind if she knew. But I don't care anymore. Not after everything you did. You showed me what courage looks like. You showed me that it's okay to break free. I reread the lines, tears blurring the words. My sister, my quiet, compliant sister. She had been carrying this burden, this secret for so long, and her daughter, Hope, was out there. The thought was overwhelming, a new layer of complexity and pain, but also a glimmer of hope for Tabitha. I didn't respond to the letter immediately, not because I didn't care, but because I needed time to process it all. The wounds were still fresh, and while Tabitha's honesty was a huge step, rebuilding trust would take time and work. But the door was open. As the first snows of the new year began to melt, a new tradition began in our little home. Iris, with her boundless creativity, suggested it. Mommy, she'd said, can we write letters to everyone who made us feel real this Christmas? And so we did. Not just at Christmas, but throughout the year, whenever someone showed us kindness, support, or genuine love. We wrote to Maria, to Mia, to Ren, to Annalise. We wrote about gratitude, about chosen family, about the strength we found in each other. It was a quiet ritual, a way to acknowledge the people who truly mattered, the ones who saw us, truly saw us for who we were. Karma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just sits beside you, wrapped in a blanket, smiling,